Hello, everyone. This is Edwin Olvera from Edwin Olvera Dance and Creative Services. And in this amazing Skype interview, I have right before me Jessica. Say your last name.
Hershberg.
The reason why I'm asking Jessica to say her last name is because I butchered it in the first round. So Jessica and I, we've known each other since, oh my God, and I'll show you quickly, since James and the Giant Peach. That was around 2010. Jessica is an actress who does musical theater on Broadway and off-Broadway. And we've known each other, wow, for about 5 years. And it's funny that we stayed in the same house together and did a lot of crazy monkey business with our other roommates,
Yep.
A part of that production. But anyway, Jessica has done a lot of stuff on Broadway. Most recently, you were on Broadway for Cinderella, and you were part of the ensemble. Did you do any other role that was like featured in that one?
Yeah, so I was in the ensemble, and then soon after I joined this girl, Carly Rae Jepsen, who's a pop star. She was Cinderella, but she did 6 shows a week instead of 8. So I got to do the other 2 each week.
Oh, Cinderella?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
But now here's the thing that you have to fill in the blank for people because they don't know.
Yeah.
Who was the prince in Cinderella?
Yeah. Well, before I was in the show, originally the prince was played by Santino Fontana, who's my fiance. Yeah. So we were only in the show for a few weeks together because he was in it for the first year, and then I came in later, and then we had a few weeks where we crossed over, and then he left, and I was in the show.
How long were you in that production for?
Close to a year. Like, I think I was there 8 months, 10 months. I
Wow.
started in January. I started rehearsals in December of 2013, and then I left in October of 2014.
Wow, okay. That's pretty amazing. What other, I mean, I wrote down here that you were also part of this thing, like Baby, It's Yours, Pipe Dreams, and like I said, you know, we met on James and the Giant Peach. What's interesting about that production is that you're good friends with the lyricist composer, Pasek and Paul.
Yeah.
And Ben. And you also received your BFA from University of Michigan for musical theater, and that's where you met those guys there, right?
Yeah, we were friends in college.
Oh my God! And you guys, I saw photos of you and your fiance, and also those guys. Who was it? Justin.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God.
I think those pictures are from the Tony Awards.
Really?
It was crazy, yeah, because Justin and Ben were nominated for A Christmas Story that they did. I guess it was a year or 2 after, and Santino was nominated, so we were all there. It was just totally surreal, like being with your friends from college, and then it was cool.
Now, let people know what you're doing right now. What's the current project? Is it a regional theater? Is it off-Broadway or on-Broadway?
Yeah, it's a regional theater. So right now I'm doing, it's technically a concert version of a show called 110 in the Shade that was on Broadway originally in the 60s, and then they did a revival in 2007 with Audra McDonald. And I'm doing it at this theater in Florida in West Palm Beach. The theater's called Palm Beach Drama Works, and it's part of their summer concert series. But I say concert in quotes because it's not really a concert. It's kind of like you basically learn everything in a week, and then you have music stands so that technically you have your script, but no one wants to not know their lines. So it's all kind of, yeah. So that's what I'm doing right now. I'm playing Lizzie Curry, who's the...
Are you in Florida now, or are you in New York?
I'm in Florida right now. This is my apartment here in Florida. The artwork and...
The artwork. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of, you know how you said, having the script and everything on hand, what people need to know is when we were in James and the Giant Peach, I go back to that because there was a moment that was really just mind-blowing to see you as an actress take another position in a short amount of time and be that character, which was the lead character, because something went wrong, right? And then you stepped into those shoes. And what did you have? Like, was it like 24 hours or like?
Yeah, that was insane. I mean, that was like unheard of. I mean, it was fun, but yeah. So that show they didn't have understudies. There was no like contingency plan if someone couldn't do the show. And then the stage manager just called me like the night before and was like, hey, so the actress whatever isn't gonna be able to be there, and I was like, are you joking? Like what? She was like, I don't have any jokes left in me or something dramatic.
Reading that script.
Yeah, and so I was just bringing the script with me, which in some ways, like, I've understudied before, and going on for the first time when you're understudying is nerve-wracking no matter what, because, you know, you're in the show that you weren't part of from day one of rehearsal, and that part. In some ways, that when I've understudied, that experience was more nerve-wracking, because at least with this, it was like everybody knew. They told everyone, like, hey, this is kind of crazy. You're going to see something weird. This girl, you know, was asked to do this the night before. So I had my script. But yeah, I mean, that was crazy. I kind of can't believe that happened.
But it just goes to show, like, how professional you are. The ability in the dancer's world, when somebody gets injured or whatever, that you step in that quickly. And it was a huge role, because I believe you were, like, a part of you weren't ensemble, I think you were part of the chorus, right? And then all of a sudden you got into a lead role, which is like, oh. Yeah,
playing a part that the woman, it's like, she's like 20 years older, 30 years older than I was. And, yeah. But, you know, it's like, it was fun. I mean, it was crazy. But, yeah, I mean, why not? That's all, you know, we all got into this because we like pretending and doing, you know, it's like, okay, sure, yeah.
And that's a perfect segue about, you know, pretending, liking events.
Yeah.
So what I do is when I do these interviews is I ask people 7 questions. And the first one is, you know, at what point in your, like, early childhood did your parents, or maybe did you realize you wanted to be in musical theater?
Well, it's kind of funny because what I'm doing now feels very, like, there was not a straight trajectory of, like, I was a little kid and I wanted to be in musicals. Like, my first love was ballet. Like, that, when I was, my thing was, like, being 5 and, like, pointing my toes in the bathtub and being like, I want to be a dancer, you know, and then my mom taking me to ballet class. So that's what I loved. And then, like, in 8th grade, that's kind of when I started to see, like, I would go to auditions for summer programs and I would see the other girls from different schools. And that's when I kind of started to figure out, like, I didn't have the, like, perfect classical ballet body. Like, I don't have really arched feet. I don't have amazing turnout. Like, my knees are kind of knobby. Like, I just was starting to notice that, like, what I wanted in that world wasn't going to happen for me. Yeah. So who knows? But it just hurt. Like, it just wasn't, I loved it, but I wasn't on a fast track, like, you know, the other girls that I saw. And then that year, 8th grade, is when I did the 8th grade musical. We did a ragtime music review, and I had a solo, and I'd never sung or been interested in singing. It just was not on my radar. And then I sang, and suddenly it was like, oh, Jessica, you can sing. You have this great voice. And it was like, oh, great, cool. Like, I don't know, this is fun. And coming from ballet, where it was so strict and regimented, singing was like, for me, it felt so easy, and it was just like, well, this is great. I can do whatever I want, and I don't have to be, like, in a perfect straight line behind everyone else. And so, like, so then I got into, like, singing, but even, like, the last show I did before this one it was a musical, but it was really like a drama. It was a play that had music in it, and it was really heavy. And I would say sometimes to Santino, I'd be like, how did I end up doing this? Because I wasn't, like, I would watch, like, ER or something growing up, and I'd be like, I would never want to be that character. You know, the person who comes in and they're on the hospital bed, they're like, I'm dying, and they're, like, crying. It's like, ugh, I don't want to do that. And then I was doing this show where I was, like, having to have these, like, huge emotional breakdowns on stage, which I ended up, like, enjoying. Like, I found it fulfilling, but it wasn't like, this is my dream. It was kind of like, how did I end up here? But I like it. It could happen in a roundabout way. Because now I feel like what I'm doing now, like this character that I'm playing in this show, it's really like, there's a lot of music involved, but what really is challenging is the acting. And that's what I find right now to be the most, well, I don't know, I love to sing, but I find the acting to be fulfilling in a way that I never was interested in acting. And for a while I had, like, a complex about it. Like, I just don't know how to do that, or I'm not good at that. So what did you have to do, or who helped you find that key to unlock those potentials of being an actress? I think the first experience I had where I felt like that was possible for me was when I studied abroad. Because the college
London, right? Studied in London?
Yeah. And it was a Shakespeare program, and it was at RADA, the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art. Yeah, Shakespeare, right? But that was the first time where I think I just used to think like, well, either you're naturally like a good actor or you're not. And that's not true. I mean, you have training just like anything else. And some
Yeah.
people, and you could have 5 people all take the same acting class, and it's not necessarily going to benefit everyone the same way, because some people might be given every piece of information that they could possibly need, and it might not work for them or whatever. But so much, it's like anything. It's like dance. It's like singing. It's techniques and skills and having like a toolbox of, okay, how do I get into this, or how do I? So okay, so sorry, I'm going off on a tangent.
No, but that's important. I think people need to hear this stuff because all this background information, help bring you to a level of professional performance. And
Yeah,
it's nice to hear how it happens.
yeah, studying abroad was the first thing, and then really honestly, not until it was after I met you. Once I started. So Santino, my fiance, he had gone to school for acting, and his teacher is this guy named Scott Freeman, and he now teaches in New York. And so I took his acting class, and that like was a total game changer for me, because I just learned. I had been afraid of acting and a lot of acting classes because it all was so much of what I'd been shown was all this like very esoteric, just like roll on the ground and do this and do that, and more experimental stuff that I wasn't immediately comfortable with.
Yeah.
So in this class, to me, felt like more, I don't know, I was able to get into it and not feel so, I don't know, it resonated with me in a way that I really heard and understood for the first time. So that
Did you feel like it was just very, just straight up practical, like, oh, that works, yeah, it's easy to tap into that emotion, versus like, I know what you mean, there are some in the dance world, there's this shit, to get into that creative state. I'm like, well, just tell me what I need to do to get it done,
Yeah. It's
I'll explore it, just help me, and then I move on.
Yeah, it's a mixed bag. I mean, sometimes like those really crazy things can be incredibly helpful and they free you up and whatever. And other times they become their own thing and it has nothing to do with, okay, but how do I play a scene in this play where I'm playing this character? I know how to roll on the ground for an hour and feel my diaphragm, but I don't know what to do when I'm talking or. Yeah. But that's been the biggest, because I think acting is the through line for everything, for dance too. I mean, you're always telling a story, and that's what acting is. So that's helped me go get the kinds of jobs or parts that I'm interested in that I wasn't getting before, because I don't think I knew quite what I was doing. And I used to internalize what I would say to people who were studying or whatever. I used to take that as like, well, I'm just bad. It's like, no, I just didn't have the education. I didn't know, and now I do. So there's always more to learn. It's not just like yes or no.
Is there one exercise that you find like some affinity towards? You're like, wow, when I use that exercise, it really helps open me,
Yeah, I mean, well, one little thing which always helped when I would go on for Cinderella, there's this whole thing, maybe you've seen it, like the YouTube videos about like power poses.
Oh yeah, I do that all the time.
Expansive.
And like this.
Yeah. I would do that because I would start to feel nervous about doing this huge part on a Broadway stage, and I would just feel like I want to feel expansive and feel like, so I would do that, and that helps get me like feeling grounded and expansive. And but there are tons of things, like the more I'm doing now, I'm kind of starting to have like the toolbox metaphor of like, this feels weird, maybe I'll try this or that or the other. Other things too, like when I had to cry in that show, there's so many different ways you can get into that, whether it's psychological, just thinking of what's happening in the show if it's sad, or substituting something else, or also just physical things like keeping your mouth open or like breathing or tensing up some. There are just so many different ways you can get the same result, and it doesn't really matter how you do it.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
I was acting for a second. I was acting like I was stunned. I like improv. I like the improv all the time, but again, you can only improv for so long after a certain point because you realize you're full of BS. So here's something. When you got into the acting, you said Shakespearean. Was there any other type of style of acting that really was like, wow, that works? Was there, people, there's methods, right?
Yeah. I don't know. I guess I don't know what Scott Freeman, this teacher that I studied with, I don't know if he has like, if he would consider himself in one style of acting. Like, I mean, I'm not a method actor. I think it's good to draw on lots of different types of things, but honestly, I'm not a good enough. I couldn't tell you like which teacher's famous for doing what.
No, I get you. There was one book that was given to me to a friend of mine. His name was Joseph Scott Campbell. He's like an actor in New York. Anyway, the book that he gave me was one called The Art of Acting. I forgot who's it by, but I read it and I was like, wow, as a dancer, you know, looking at tools, right, to generate movement or inspiration. They had some really cool scenes or scenarios to be, you know, like just being observant of certain things in the room, like things that you normally just pass all the time.
Yeah.
Wow, there's that. Look at that, or look at this.
We had
bring up an old memory of something that happened in the past that may be familiar, you know?
Yeah, because I mean, what's interesting about acting is like so many people have such different ways of getting into it.
Yeah.
You can have the same result, like you can have a compelling performance, but people can have like the show that I did, the show before this, the guy I was opposite was saying that he never thinks about like real things in his life to use in the scene. He only thinks about what's happening in that moment in the show. And for me, like sometimes I would do that, and then sometimes after enough shows, I would feel like numb to those circumstances. I'd be like,
it wasn't bringing any emotion, or maybe it wasn't feeling that particular moment.
Yeah. It's fascinating. Yeah, I mean or like when you were talking about improv, one of the first things in this class that I took, he has everybody improv a scene, the first thing they do. And when I was doing it, it was funny, which wasn't really the point. And at some point he was like, Jessica, leave from the heart. Like, it doesn't, you know, because it was some scenario where it was like, I'm with my brother and he wants to borrow money and I have to always say no and he has to keep trying to get me to give him money. That's like basically the setup of the scene. And I kept like deflecting in a way that was humorous or cerebral or something, and he said like leave from the, and that was a really interesting, that was like something that I had to work on, was like being more open in that way. And then you find like every character has that, like anyway, yeah.
No, but it's interesting, you know, every character, right? Yeah. It's every character that you play, or even the person that you are, you know, acting alongside, right, or performing alongside. Yeah. Every method is different, but at the end of the day, it's live theater. It's not you know, something where they cut and edit and say, you know, you have to fill that time. You have to be there, be present.
Yeah, and each character that you watch, like if you're watching a character go through a journey, you have to care about them, and I think in order to connect, you have to see someone who's having a deep experience, and that usually, you know, involves, you know, emotions and real feelings, not just like a clever remark or like sarcasm or something.
It's funny. Anytime we're in the performing arts field, right, whether it's dance, musical theater, and stuff, there's something about being vulnerable, you know, because we open ourselves up so big to take in so many things, so many people, so many objects, whatever. We bring it into our sphere of comfort, and we have to trust instantly, even if we don't know it, right? And it's like, then all of a sudden you got to close it back up again.
Yeah. Well, and that, I mean, you do that. I was actually watching So You Think You Can Dance before we started this, which I haven't watched in a long time. But just, you know, they're throwing their bodies around, and you talk about trust. Like, you're all trusting each other that you're going to catch each other, or, you know, I don't know. That's a lot.
Yeah. Now, I'm going to segue into, you know, what happens, say, if you didn't get caught, right, and an injury happens. So what are some injuries that you've ever dealt with, whether it was like physical, vocal, or maybe like mental dryness?
Well, hey. Well, I mean, luckily I didn't ever have any really bad dance injuries. I had like a hip flexor thing, but there's nothing really interesting about that. Except physical therapy is amazing. I mean, I just think it's so cool when or even doing Cinderella, I'd have like a little, it's just amazing. You just like, and then you're like, oh, great. Yeah. Well, let's see. Vocally, like, I've never, knock on wood, had a vocal injury, but it is amazing how like stress and stuff can affect your voice, because I remember I was on tour and there was just a lot of crazy stuff happening with a friend of mine, and my family was in town, and I was having a hard time singing, and it was completely stress related. and then it went away. But the other, and then like I guess when you asked that question, the first thing I thought of was I kind of like started psyching myself out when I was doing Cinderella, because there was one night where the conductor, like we got off with, we were doing 10 minutes ago, like the big scene in the ball, and something happened where like we weren't together, and he cued the music before I had like this much time to finish a phrase that should have had this much time, and I like inverted a lyric, like, which was totally harmless and no one would have known, but I got so freaked out. And like for many shows after that, I kept second guessing myself or wondering if I knew what my lines were. When like
spot, right? The hit.
Yeah, but it would affect the rest of my show, and I would be thinking like, oh my God, you don't know your line, you don't know your line. And it was like, of course I did, and I did, and I did it even like at that point I was so memorized that I could be thinking you don't know your line and saying my line at the same time. And then I guess I just eventually like. It was also, I think, exacerbated because at that point I was just doing it two times a week. So it wasn't like as consistent as if I was doing it 8 times a week. But
yeah, sure, yeah.
I mean, that felt like an injury because it was so like, it's like, what is going on? Like, why can't I get out of this? And then eventually I did, and it hasn't been a problem. But yeah, I don't know. But injuries are, I mean, I've been fortunate. I haven't had anything.
I like how you're knocking on everything. Okay, let me knock on wood.
Yeah. But I am mindful. Like, I think there are a lot of people who don't take care of themselves, like, who get worse because they don't handle it.
I remember when, just going back, again, what I really liked about James and the Giant Peach was it was one of the first times that I was totally immersed into what it's like to be in a regional theater when you have heavy-hitting Broadway performers, and I was like, oh my God. And to see some of the care, like there was a woman in our, Kate, what was her last name? Weatherhead, yeah, Weatherhead. She did all this stuff to keep her throat warm. I mean, she was sick, and she's like, I still have to belt it out, I got to take care of myself. And I was like, wow. It was the first time I saw somebody be so delicate with their throat, you know?
Yeah.
Because we're so damn physical with our hands and our body, throwing people, but
well, you do the same thing, like you wouldn't. I was thinking about that earlier this week because I'm doing this show right now, and we were rehearsing something, so we just kept repeating the same things.
Yeah.
And it's not so much the singing, which is challenging, but it's like my character has a lower voice, and she's not yelling, but she does raise her voice a lot. And so I was starting to be really mindful about like, how do I use my voice in rehearsal so that I don't hurt myself?
Yeah, you don't have to continue to be in that vocal range, right?
Yeah, well, at least not, it's one thing if you're doing the show once for 2 hours, but if you're doing, we were in like a 10-hour rehearsal yesterday. It's like you can't, and I watch other people, not in this show, maybe a couple of people in the show, but just in shows in general, like it's a whole other skill set to learn how to take care of yourself for the long term. Not to just do the audition, but like once you're doing the role, like how do you maintain that kind of health? The same way you guys do, dancing, and you wouldn't just like go into the studio and do the hardest thing you have to do. You'd warm up. I mean, you guys were super diligent about that.
And we still get hurt.
Well, sometimes it's inevitable.
Sometimes. This is just kind of moving forward to the present state. Is there something that's inspiring you right now? Whether for me, I love reading about marketing. But is there something, a book? Maybe there was a place that you encountered in your travels that, wow, it's beautiful, or something about relationships, or maybe something now that's really inspiring you.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think what's interesting, I mean, the part I'm doing right now is about this girl who, it's in this small town in West Texas, and she's not married, and she has all these brothers and her dad, and they're trying to like get her married to someone, and they were, she's like plain or nobody, she's not the prettiest girl in the town, and it's this whole journey for her of like, and her brothers are saying, well, if you want to get a guy, you have to act like this and that and the other. And she's saying, I don't want to pretend to be someone I'm not. I just want to be myself. And so it's this whole thing about like, and she meets this guy and they have some kind of thing, but it's really about like her like learning to love herself first, and then she can have whatever relationship she wants. But there's a lot of stuff about like, is she going to die alone? Like, is she going to find someone? Is she going to, and what does that mean to be in a relationship with someone, to be married, and I'm getting married in a month. So.
Oh no! Wow. I mean, that's. I'm saying oh no because like, oh my God.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So,
I remember when you said I'm getting engaged, and you're like,
yeah.
oh my God, you're getting married.
Yeah. So, I mean, in that way, it's inspiring, or it's definitely very resonant right now because all those themes are kind of in my mind of, what that kind of commitment means. And I mean, I was joking with the director, like if I was doing the show and I was single, I would be like, ugh. because it's hard. I mean, that those feelings. Well, when we first met, I was like, I don't know, and you were like, you need to like not, be dating around so much, or like you need to like just, save it. And at the time, I remember being like, ew, whatever, like.
Whatever, you married man.
Yeah, but I think I was happy to have my dating time, but yeah, I mean, it's a different thing to have a meaningful connection with someone and how that changes you, and I don't think I would be able to play the parts the way I play them now if I didn't have like that sense, those feelings, like to really love someone. I don't know how it's a lot easier to sing about loving someone when you love someone than just the idea of what it would be like to love someone.
I love you.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. This is going with. What are some, maybe things that you would like to try now as an actress? Whether it's a new style of like singing, or whether it's trying a different role than what you're doing now.
Well, I think I've been pretty lucky lately that the parts I've been doing lately have been pretty different from each other, which is awesome, and a relatively new thing for me. I think the next thing. I've started auditioning for TV stuff. I haven't done any of it, but I'm going to be in LA for a few months this fall with Santino, and I'm interested in that world. I mean, I don't necessarily know. He's filming something right now, and it's just a whole other thing because it's very it's very stop and go, and it's
wait, I'm ready.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. So I don't know, but I'm definitely interested in. I think my big thing is just wanting, just to keep doing different things and keep challenging myself, and just try anything, everything.
Yeah, I think that's important. Like, I don't know if you know what I've been doing for myself. Like I made an ebook recently talking about being a successful freelance dancer. What are 5 things you should become? Becoming an author, it never existed. And I'm damn dyslexic. Spelling is terrible for me. So, but I found other ways to push myself mentally, physically, to try different things like interviewing. I didn't think I would ever be doing interviews, but I love it. And the more I kept practicing, talking with people, I'm a hell of an extrovert and social person.
You're an inspiration when it comes to like trying new things and being adventurous and not staying in a rut. I mean, I've known you 5 years, but you're always doing 7 million different things and following your interests and keeping yourself open. I had such a good time living with you guys and doing that whole experience because like you just had so much creativity and you were so uninhibited with just like, I was joking around with that when we were like, playing the guitar, and then you guys were shining the flashlights through the glasses. Like, it was just so, I think people can get away from that kind of stuff because they think like, oh, that's not, whatever. But yeah, but it's not. I mean, we're all creative people. That's why we're in these fields. If we weren't, we'd all be bankers or, making money.
Maybe those are the next type of characters you have to play.
Yeah.
I should do that. I should be like the bumbling fool who's a banker. Like, I can't wait to sell stocks. Socks and stocks. I can't wait.
Yeah.
Oh my God. So what happens after this show? What's the next collaboration you're doing?
After this show, I'm getting married, so that's the next big collaboration. And then I actually there's something else I'm going to do, but I don't think I can officially talk about it, but another show.
Listen, if you're going to be skydiving, wearing a hot banana suit, jumping
That would be fun. No, I think I'm gonna do another show this winter, but I can't talk about it yet because it's not official.
Sure.
But
That's okay, no worries.
yeah, and then just continuing to audition for stuff. I mean, it's like I never really like make plans of like I'm going to be doing this or that or the other because I have so little control unless I start making my own projects, which I do want to write more, but I mean, but in general it's just kind of whatever audition comes down and being selective about it, but things I'm interested in pursuing them. Yeah.
Can I give you a suggestion about the whole writing thing?
Yeah.
Because yes, writing is a challenge for me, but I wrote a really wonderful book, and I found, and I know that it's not me who does it. There's a lot of other people who do this, where you do from voice to text. There's a program called Dragon Diction where people can you can talk for however long you want, and it records it, turns it into text, and I can go back.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's how I'm able to generate large amounts of information. So you have a lot, you can, there's a lot of things that you can think of and put on paper, and then also go back and
Yeah.
maybe double record like what I'm doing now. I'm recording this audio-wise, right? So I record the audio and then you turn it to text. Yeah, who knows? You can tell your whole life story.
Wow.
Jessica Hershberg. I said the name right. I had to see myself for butchering it. Okay, so then here's coming closer to, well, we kind of know where your future you mentioned, but where, going back to say your engagement, your wedding, where are you guys getting married?
Where?
Yeah.
This bed and breakfast in the Catskills.
Oh, Catskill, that's a beautiful area.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Is Justin gonna be there?
Yeah. He is. Justin's gonna be there. He's actually gonna write a song for when I come in for the ceremony. Yeah. He's gonna write something.
And nobody can use that song. No company.
It's original.
It's original, baby. You have to get the intellectual rights from.
Yeah. And my dress is actually being made by this Broadway costume designer who did Cinderella and this other show that I did. So it's gonna be original.
I want to go back something because I think a lot of people don't understand how Broadway works.
Yeah.
When you got into Broadway, were you a part of a union? And if so, which one? And how does that work being a Broadway performer?
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, like, I bet everybody who is in the cast of Cinderella has a different story in terms of how they got there and what the order of things was. When I decided I wanted to do musical theater, that's when it was like my senior year of high school. So I went to Michigan for musical theater, and that's where I met everybody because I didn't know. Like, I didn't know what I was. That's
huge university when it comes to musical theater, what they're producing out of that.
Yeah. It's a good program. But I didn't know anything. Like, some people there were like, oh, I've seen a million shows and I've been in a million shows, and I assumed everyone's high school theater department was bad because mine was bad, but it turns out they were like amazing high school theater departments. They were doing like great, all these really sophisticated shows. But anyway, so I went to Michigan, and then my freshman year, a bunch of people went to St. Louis and auditioned for this summer stock theater called the MUNY. Mm-hmm. So I went to those auditions and I got cast, and that theater is an equity house. So when you got cast, you would get your equity card, which is the stage actors union. So that summer I paid, whatever it was, whatever my initiation fee was. And then from that job on, that I had my equity card. So, and then when I graduated from college, we did a showcase where I got an agent from that showcase. So I had an agent and I was equity. But different people have different things. Like, they'll graduate, not have an agent, not be equity. It can be kind of a catch-22 thing because, like, getting your equity card, it's like, well, you have to be equity to get this job, and then certain places don't want to, they have to pay. Yeah, and it's a whole contentious thing now because a lot of these touring companies are non-equity, which in some ways is great, for young kids, like, oh, great, get your first job and experience that. But in terms of, but then there's a lot of pushback, like, that's taking away jobs from professional actors, and I don't know, it's a whole thing.
Well, then imagine, somebody's a part of one of these touring shows, right? They spend 2 or 3 years of their time, but they spend all that time and they still don't get their equity thing, then they're limited to certain things. Now, speaking of agent, do you have that same agent that you did before, or do you have a new agent?
No, I left. So the agent that I signed with after I graduated, I was with them for the first 4 years. And then I think we just kind of outgrew each other. Like it just wasn't a good fit anymore. So I left them, which without having another agent, I just didn't want to be there anymore. But so then I got another. It ended up being this whole long process, but I ended up making a tape, like putting myself on tape, doing different songs and different scenes, and sending that out. And then I got Santino passed along my tape to this manager who he knew through a friend, and he saw that tape, and then he messaged me, and we got together, and we've been working together since. So it's been like 2 years with him.
And so he basically sends you a script and says, "Hey, Jessica, this is, I think, something that may be in your ballpark."
So I'll either get just like I'll get auditions just directly through. It's him and other people who work for him. So yeah, it'll be like, you have an audition for this show at this time, or it'll be, do you want to have an audition for this show? Or sometimes it'll be, here's an offer to do a part in this show because somebody knows you, but they're going through your manager to. That's not common, but sometimes it happens.
Yeah, I get you.
Yeah.
Here's the point where I asked for a word of advice. So let's see if we can get two from Jessica, because I like you very much, and I know you have a lot of wisdom that you want to share with the jabronis who are not within our circle. So.
Yeah.
Okay, let's give one advice when it comes to dealing with stuff on Broadway. What would you say to young performers? Broadway's the big time, baby. Come on, big time, Motown, big time.
Well, here's what I would say. I think it's Broadway's great and it's cool, and but it's not necessarily. You could be in a show on Broadway and not be doing anything that fills your heart or that you really enjoy, and then you could be doing a show and getting paid nothing, playing a part that you love in an environment that you love, that you could love doing. So Broadway's not the end all be all. That being said, I mean, Broadway's really exciting, and I loved being there, and it was a real dream. It was really a powerful moment being on stage for the first time. And feeling like, this is a goal I set for myself and I have achieved it. Like, there is something satisfying about that. Like I said, when I was 17, I wanted to do this and I'm doing it. But it's not, it's sometimes I think people put pressure on that. And it's not necessarily.
It's like, no, you could be doing, I heard this thing, I'll share this with you. There's a teacher who is a part of the Whitewater Department of Dance, right? And her name is Barbara. And Barbara had mentioned to me that, why sometimes do people need to go to New York to dance for dead choreographers when you can be in a regional theater, in a regional community, right, of dance, and work with some cutting edge, choreographers and performers? Why do we always have to go to New York to find the magic when it could be literally in your backyard?
And there's also, so many people move to New York to get hired. It's like exactly what I'm doing right now. I got cast out of New York to be in a show in Florida. Like, that's what we were all like, I did a show in Connecticut because I was cast in New York. Like, but I do think, here's what I think is great about New York is I think that it's impossible to be complacent. Well, you can be complacent anywhere, but I like the energy of all these people who are trying to be as good as they can be at something.
Yeah.
And I like that kind of creative energy, that like you're with people who are super motivated and passionate and ambitious. And sometimes that can get skewed, but I do like that that feeling.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
And what about let's say, okay, I like to be on time. I like to be prepared. I like to be, so prepared that I may have the whole 10 weeks already lined out. Like that's how I think it comes from my military background about being on time, being ready,
Yeah.
So if there was something that you can tell people to be conscious of, a trait as a professional artist, what would it be?
Well, I think that's crucial. I think it's always wanting to keep pushing yourself to be better and to never just feel like, well, yeah, that'll do. It's like,
that'll do, big.
I mean, people bought their tickets, whatever, but
Yeah.
You know, that it's about like continuing to discover more and learn more. And I think that would be my other piece of advice that I feel like I'm still learning is like, I think I used to watch people and be like, well, that's not good. They're not good, or they're so good. And it's like, yeah, sure, but the person who you thought wasn't good can be great. I mean, everyone, you can always get better. And sometimes I think there's always more to learn. And anyone can be terrible and amazing, I think. Like, amazing actors can be terrible in shows for whatever reason. Yeah, like if the material's bad, if something happened, if they're not, you know, like, it's not, I think what I'm getting more used to is like, because ballet was my first like entry into everything creative, it's so regimented and it's so black and white. It's like you either did that correctly or you didn't. And then of course there's like the artistry involved, but in terms of the technique, it's so, and I think what I'm learning is that the whole field, it's not necessarily that black and white. Although, but I mean, there are techniques. I guess what you know, it's like I will never have good feet. There's nothing to be like, it's like they're just not good. Like that will never change. But with anything else, like most other things, you can continue to learn and change and get better. It all goes back to my terrible feet.
In Pilates, when I was dancing with the company, we used to call it, instead of, you know, like a point, whatever, we say it's Palavo point. So this is good enough. We all have bad biscuits, you know. But that's not true now. A lot of the dancers are technically trained, really, really trained. And
Yeah.
The hell with it, man. Sell what you have, not what you don't, right?
Yeah.
If I have a bag of tricks, I'm going to keep telling you the tricks.
Yeah.
And explore other things on the side. How can people find out more about you, like on social media? What's the best way to plug your information?
I'm not great about like promoting myself, but well, I'm on Instagram and Twitter as Jess Hirsch. I have a website, jessicahershberg.com, but I don't know. Maybe I should do more about, you know, promoting stuff, but.
Oh, that's okay. But at least people can go check out your stuff, you know?
Yeah. My website, I guess, has the most, but I'm going to change my last name in a month, so it's going to change to jessicafontana.com.
Jessica Fontana. Oh my God. Caramba. You got to be careful with a name like that, Fontana.
Yeah.
It's Italian though, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
But you're not Italian.
Now I will be.
Is he there with you or no?
What?
Is your fiance, is he in Florida as well, or is he?
No, he's going to come down next weekend.
Oh, that's right.
You know, he's working.
Oh my God, this has been an amazing interview, and it's so fun after all these years. The last time we saw each other was like literally 2 years ago. Remember?
Yeah.
Years ago, yeah, we hung out and we talked. And you said something like, "Hey, because of you, I went raw for a while."
I did. I got rid of all the like Splenda, all the like, you know, low fat, whatever.
Yeah, it does something to you, you know, when one cleanses himself, you know. I remember you met us when we were eating raw, completely raw. It was hilarious. But,
how's your brother?
He's well. He became a personal trainer, and he was in Warhorse for like 2 years in Berlin, and now he's back in New York. So when you're in New York, you should give the other monkey a phone call, you know.
I actually have a banana. I should grab it. It's in my kitchen.
Go grab the banana. Oh my God.
I have 2 of them.
I believe somebody's calling you on the banana phone. So for those of you who don't, this is our inside joke that we had when we were at James and the Giant Peach. And you know what I was sharing with you earlier, just to kind of tie in it all full circle, when we met at James and the Giant Peach. I'm actually doing that kids show.
Oh,
the same one of Patrick and Paul here in Milwaukee.
That's so cool.
Yeah, so I'll have to let you know how it goes. It's you know, a lot of the same songs. It's a little bit different because it's aimed towards kids for a 70-minute show. But it's amazing to know that I met you during it, right?
Yeah.
I'm good friends with you and Justin and those guys and the whole crew. And the fact that we, you know, kept in contact.
That was a really special, group. And because I'm still close with, and Kate Weatherhead, So you know that submissions only.
Yeah, submissions only. We were part of it. Yeah.
That's like where I first heard Santino's name was Kate talking about like scheduling.
The character in that.
Yeah, and then like I saw him on that show, and yeah, so it's amazing like how things have carried from that one.
You met him in a web series. Oh my God, this is wonderful. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to end this call, and then I'll just call you right back quickly, okay?
Great, yeah.
So thank you, Jessica, for your time.
Thanks.
The one and only Jessica.
Woo.
Signing off. Right, I'll be right back. Bye. I'll be right back. Bye.
All right.